Welcome to Lou TV. We're finally back at it. We were here last week. Had some things pop up for Friday. Did not make an appearance. Like Drez Anderson last week, we did not make an appearance. Andrew and Zach are with me. I have light now. I have sunglasses again. All is right in the world. What's up, Andrew and Zach? You guys, did you guys play Drez Anderson this past weekend?
No, I actually swapped him out last minute for Kenneth Scott. So
I did not play him either.
How did Kenneth Scott end up doing?
he was okay. I think he had 5 or 6 catches for 60, 70 yards.
By the way, you're really good with made-up players, Zach. DeMarco Robinson from Florida, or from Kentucky. What do you think of DeMarco Robinson?
Wow, we jumped right into Kentucky, didn't we?
Well, I don't think they play, but I just am curious if, well, they don't play on Thursday or Friday. We're coming Thursday, Friday night. But my one of my coworkers, her brother is DeMarco Robinson.
Oh, wow. I mean, he hasn't done anything as of late, this year to even prove that he's really a great option. He might be a, 3 or 4 catch guy he might break one, but that's counting on a lot.
What can you give me a rundown? Is he a sophomore? Is he, a tall receiver, a short receiver? What's his deal?
He's a senior, 5'10".
Oh, really? He hasn't done anything? I'm going to have to talk to him.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking at it, 5'10", 158.
That's sadly impressive, Zach, that you know that before.
No, I'm looking at it. I'm not going to lie.
But you said 5'10" beforehand, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right, that's creepy. Anyways, cool fact: Justin Thomas and what is his name? Thomas Beverly or Biverly?
Georgia Tech.
I missed it. Yeah, Georgia Tech quarterbacks. I missed him at the Hall of Fame yesterday. Totally could have talked to them about possibly beating Miami for me, but I missed it. Pretty upset about that.
Yeah.
Anyways, Andrew, dude, make your big announcement that you were telling us about last week, but you wouldn't tell it. You want to do it on air because you want all the surprise. Andrew wants the limelight and the spotlight on him.
No, the more I thought about it, it's going to come off a lot stupider than it should because it's so big. But so me and my buddies they're planning my bachelor party and we're going on a college football trip, but they refuse to tell me where it is, and the goal is to make it so I don't know where I am until I get off the plane.
Really? So, how are they going to approach that? Are they going to blindfold you, or are they going to
I asked the kid who's planning it. I'm like, I assume this involves earbuds and drugs or something, and he's like, no, it's much better than that. But he's not.
What?
Because you're going to be at the gate and they're going to say, "Oh, last call to board flight."
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what he's planning.
Last call for flight to Jacksonville.
You guys are going to North Dakota.
Is it that weekend? Is it November 1st?
No.
So it's not November 1st? What?
Woo!
I was gonna buy you drinks, man. I was gonna bring my own drinks.
So you don't know when's the weekend?
Still figuring it out.
I was gonna say, tell me you don't know the weekend.
So it's the weekend
all of a sudden you're just on an airplane, going somewhere. Oh, that's actually cool. I hope they do it well. It's cool if they do it well. If they do it all sketchy, then it could be odd. But
yeah, it's gonna be odd carrying him onto the plane.
Yeah, they're gonna actually put you in a bag and put you under. You're a carry-on object, actually.
It's fine, as long as it's well executed.
All right.
Anyways. So we have a nice little, 2 slates for us. Thursday and Friday, we have just the Thursday games. Arizona at Oregon, FAU at FIU, and Central Florida at Houston. And then on Friday, we have some games as well. That's the BYU game. Of course, Taysom Hill is a regular on the show. Louisville, Syracuse, and San Diego State, Fresno State. So some interesting and some pass heavy offenses. So hopefully we get some points here. Biggest, what's the most exciting game of these 6 for you this week? Andrew, which one are you going to get drunk and go watch at the bar?
Buddy, it's got to be Arizona, Oregon. That game's going to rock. I'm just hoping it's not 28-0 after the first quarter, and just because Solomon's been a bit of a slow starter in games, just I guess with being a freshman and all, but if they come out of the gates playing well, I think that game could be really awesome, and that's definitely the one I'm looking forward to.
Zach, you got to be on the same boat, right? It's got to be that one.
Yeah, didn't Arizona beat Oregon last year? In that week?
Yep.
So I think.
Guess how many carries Kadeem Carey had in that game?
Didn't he have 40?
48.
48. Whoa. What do you have? Like 600 rushing yards?
He only had like 200, but he had 4 scores.
Yeah, he was a beast in that game.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the one. You know, you possibly could have said BYU and Utah State if Chucky Keaton was playing, but he's been named out for the season pretty much. Chucky Keaton against Taysom Hill would have been a really cool matchup to see, but that's no longer going to happen. What about Florida Atlantic at FIU? Like, aren't you guys huge? And that's like the in-state rivalry in Florida, right? That's the big one, right?
Oh yeah, that's the big one.
You see like those, what is that? The house divided license plates all the time over those two schools, I think.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's just get to the action because my jokes are getting really stupid. Quarterbacks in this first slate, we have some big ones. Obviously, Mariota, you brought up Anu Solomon and how he has started slow, so maybe we can touch on that. And then the infamous John O'Corn, who you can never guess correctly. Which one of those three do you feel the safest with, Andrew?
Just considering the way that this slate looks laid out, Mariota's got to be the top pick even at $32,000. I think that there's enough value plays where you can comfortably fit him in. And just the way Oregon's been running their offense this year, seemingly putting less emphasis on the running backs and more on him, I feel comfortable at $32,000 for him. Really, no question.
Zach, I mean, are you thinking the same way, even though he's $32,000?
You know what? I like Justin Holman in this game, or in this against Houston.
He wasn't part of the question.
But I like him more than any of the other quarterbacks in this one. But I guess of the question, Mariota, yeah, I think he's clearly the best quarterback in the
Holman,
I love Holman too.
Holman at 14.8 is a steal. It seems like.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible to roll Mariota and Holman in the same lineup?
It's possible.
Definitely. I think if you wanted to, you could even roll Mariota and Solomon. Like, there's a bunch of good value, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 in this slate. I mean, granted, you probably won't be able to get both because just the way the snake system works. But if you drop 57 on Solomon and Mariota, you have to average about 8K for the rest of your guys, and which I think is doable. So, I mean, I guess it comes down to preference, but I don't think anybody's really prohibitive in this slate, just in terms of price for the quarterback.
So, Zach, you're like the king of made-up players. Jaquez Johnson is the quarterback for FAU, correct?
Correct.
And is Alex Mago the quarterback for FIU?
Actually, I think they made a change at quarterback, but I could be totally wrong on that. No, maybe I'm wrong. I am wrong on that.
His numbers are absolutely terrible.
Yeah, he's terrible. I think they've gone kind of back and forth just like all summer. I remember that, like, keeping up with the depth chart. Like, I was going there almost weekly. They'd say, okay, well, this guy's in the lead for the competition, because I think E.J. Hilliard was the starter last year, and he's played sparingly this year. But I wouldn't put any eggs in either one of those baskets.
Dude, we're going to be talking about Alex Mago next year in our and he's going to dominate as a sophomore in Andrew's perfect little sophomore bounce-back campaign. So you think, Andrew? No?
I was thinking that the Texas Tech guy, Mahomes, will be a perfect candidate for that when Davis Webb transfers after this year.
Yeah, I guess this Mago guy's a freshman. I'm looking at some tweets right now for him, and someone says, overall, FAU matches up well for FIU. Good opportunity for quarterback Alex Mago to rack up his third 200-yard game. Impressive, Alex. His third 200-yard game.
And on top of that, last week was one of his 200-yard games against UAB. He was 9 for 24 for 204 yards.
Yeah, it's if you're looking for him on Twitter, by the way, it's Mago Alex.
All right.
Just saying. Just saying.
That might be
Research
I think that's our first Twitter name drop.
Twitter name drop. Alex Mago. He's going to be a staple of this show for the next 3 years. Actually, 2 years after this year, because he's going to go pro after his third year.
I don't blame him.
Anyways, here. So, look at these quarterbacks. You say probably comparing the price to everything. Coleman against Houston is you guys' number one choice.
I'd take him first.
I think so as well. Andrew, I know that we cheated earlier, but do you think that he's better than Mariota for the price?
No, I would still go Mariota. I want him on my team this week.
Yeah, well, Mariota's hot, man. He's been unbelievable recently.
I think it's a shootout, and he's good for 4 or 5 TDs, no problem.
Okay, so if somebody you have the second pick and Mariota goes first, who are you taking?
It's a good question.
You got to go Holman, man.
Yeah.
You can't get stuck with too many of these
the
other
way
guys.
I see that game playing out is kind of similar to the BYU-Houston game where Taysom didn't really put up great passing numbers because Houston's pass D has been pretty good, but between Steinbeck and Holman, they might get 40 carries between them. So I expect Holman to put up good points, but I don't know if it's going to happen through the air. I love Solomon so much. I might just cave and take him with my second pick.
I knew he was going to go Solomon. I knew
Solomon, man, a new Solomon. You saw, Washington State stayed with, I guess I don't want to say almost beat, but they were really competitive with Oregon.
You could say it. They almost beat them. That game was very close.
Yeah, and Solomon's coming off probably, not if not his best game, his second best game of the year.
Let's say his best half of the year.
He threw 5 touchdowns. Yeah, 520 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Did they all go to Caleb Jones because that guy's been a beast, especially that game? I think he had 3 touchdowns. Is Caleb Jones the top receiver for you guys? Switching over to some receivers.
It's tough not to pick him. I'll say that.
By the way, Caleb Jones is listed as a running back.
Oh my God.
I gotta talk to Grant. I gotta send Grant a text.
You know what? Arizona. That's the one team that players have been missed.
And it's a West Coast team. You'd think that he would. Grant would be all over that. I'll have to message him and make sure because Austin Hill is also a running back here. But
at this point, it's obligatory. I think that we keep it that way, as for tradition.
Wait, Austin Hill. Actually, Arizona has actually changed and made Austin Hill a running back due to the Fantasy Elite position. They decided that they were wrong and not Fantasy Elite. So Caleb Jones, we're looking at 19K, but his production has been pretty stupid this season, especially the last 3 weeks. What are we looking at here? Is he worth a 19K? I mean, if you have Mariota, you can't really fit him, but if you have Solomon and Holman, I think you can make room for him, don't you think, Zach?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that last game, I think he had 13 catches in that game, and I don't think Oregon is as good defensively as I was expecting them to be. I was expecting them, not to be a shutout kind of defense, but a defense that made plays, turned people over. They haven't done any of that. They've just relied on their offense and relied on Mariota to win them games. And I think this could be back and forth. This could be 100-plus total points in this game.
Yeah, this could be, like you just said, those 100-point games like Cal and Colorado was last week and Arizona was the week before that. I don't know if it's a Colorado or a Cal thing or what, but it just seems like that Pac-12 is just conducive for super high scoring unless you're playing Stanford. And even
it's a Thursday night.
Maybe USC, but
Thursday night games change everything. Your whole your routine's off, everything.
It's in Oregon though, dude. My heart says go with Solomon, but he's been so nervous in some of these games, overthrowing receivers. That first half against Cal was terrible. They were getting annihilated. And I don't know. If this game was 41-7, I wouldn't say be surprised. If it was close, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's tough to put too much into the Arizona basket, though, just because I have that opinion.
They both have had the week off, so they have, I guess, 12 or 11 days of rest or time to prepare for the other team. You think that has any, can play any part into, maybe how good these defenses or offenses are, Andrew?
Uh, I guess one of the main things that I'll do is that we now know for sure that Samaji Grant's going to be back for Arizona, and he's pretty cheap this at 8,300. Maybe if that game had been played a week earlier, you wouldn't have been able to go with any of their slot receivers between Phillips or Grant. But I think I'd be comfortable slotting Grant in for 6-7 catches, and at that price, that's not bad.
Yeah, and what's the situation with the running backs? We see Nick Wilson's been so unbelievable for them, but Terrace Jones-Grigsby was great in that one game that he played before getting hurt. Do we have any news?
Right. Wilson got a little dinged up last week.
He's probable this week. I read that a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
He'll play. It just depends. Like, you don't know how many carries are going to go each way because Jones-Grigsby is expected to play too. So if they're both kind of dinged up, they aren't going to try to lean on one, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. At 10 grand, though, I have no problem taking Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're both about the same pricing. Wilson is 10.1K, and Grigsby is $10,055. So right there, I mean, who are the other? I guess we're kind of switching back and forth, but because all these guys are listed as running backs, I see a bunch of running backs, and they're all 12K or lower besides Caleb Jones. Oregon's running backs are again at 12K in a high-scoring game. One that we think Marietta owns, but do we think that there's room for Marshall or Freeman or Tyner to have some value in this one?
I think the only one I would even touch would be Byron Marshall, only because they use him more in the passing game. In an elite, you get a full point for receptions.
I agree. I don't think I'm touching any of them, especially at that price.
Yeah.
Especially you can get William Stanback at 97.50, which is I think insane value. Especially Houston's been run on pretty easily this year. So I mean I think he's a solid lock for at least 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I think I think Byron Marshall's the guy to look at there for the Oregon running backs. I guess Royce Freeman, if you're stuck with Tyner or Royce Freeman, I'd rather have Freeman, but it wouldn't be the worst situation, but not something I would try to choose to get into, maybe with like a last pick kind of thing where you have nothing else to go with there. I think it seems like one of the best values there. I mean, he's like pretty much, obviously Holman is their offense, but Stanback is right there with them. Storm Johnston was a stud for him last year, and Stanback's had some success there as well. With a good matchup. Any other running backs here? Maybe some made-up players, Zach?
Jay Warren from Florida Atlantic is a good one at 7,200. He hasn't actually scored a touchdown yet this year, which might scare people, but he's very consistent with his amount of carries and yardage. And in a game like this, a rivalry game, this might be the game that he actually gets in the end zone.
Yes. I mean, touchdowns are hard to predict, period. I mean, you can see guys consistently do it because he gets so many targets in the red zone, especially in college. But like you said, in a rivalry game, who knows what could happen. As long as he's getting touches and having success on the ground, it's really only a matter of time before they kind of break through to get it here.
Like just for example, they played Wyoming a couple weeks ago, and he had 22 carries, 108 yards. Last week against UTSA, 14 carries, 73 yards. So I mean, they're willing to give him the ball quite a bit. So a game like this, which by the way is called the Shula Bowl, just for random knowledge there, I think it might be worth a roll with him at 7,200?
Yeah, that's not bad at all there. And we're talking this game here, Florida Atlantic, Florida International. It's only projected to be like a 26-20 game. Florida Atlantic winning this one. Maybe the run game is a little heavy on this one. That's why the scores are so low. Who knows? We've talked a lot of Arizona, Oregon with good reason. That total is at like 79 points. And then Central Florida, Houston is at 50. Are you gonna because of that? Are you guys gonna be headed more towards the Arizona, Oregon like we've talked about already, or do you think there's enough here with Central Florida and Houston in this other Florida game?
Go ahead.
Oh, I am giving a good amount of attention to the Central Florida-Houston game. I mean, it doesn't really scare me off too much that Greenberry only had one catch last game. He's a top receiver option. We've talked about how we think Holman has a good amount of value. I don't know if I'm going to get too much of the Houston running backs because UCF's been pretty good against the run this year. But Stanback's awesome value. The UCF receivers kind of seem like a crapshoot for the most part. Rennell Hall, even though he's FFK, is actually suspended for the first half of that game. But I like that game overall. I think it's going to provide some good fantasy value.
What about Daniel Spencer in that game? I think he's 9,700 as opposed to Greenberry's 12.5.
I'd rather go Greenberry, but in the later rounds of a draft, sure, I'd consider Spencer. He scored on the ground through the air this year a little bit, so yeah, you're right. He definitely gets touches.
And he leads the team in receptions too. So
who leads the team? Jay Warren?
No. Daniel Spencer for Houston.
Oh, I was gonna say that's mighty impressive there. Yeah, Greenberry, man, what was the deal with Greenberry last week? One catch. I mean, we're getting O'Corns without even playing O'Corn. It's stupid. Is John O'Corn too risky for a GPP? Is that how bad, like how crazy odd John O'Corn is? With an unbelievable matchup the last couple of weeks, he's been terrible. And then he has such a legit game against BYU.
Yeah.
Does that impact?
You're flipping a coin. That's what you're doing.
Greenberry, your stance. I think Spencer as the number 2 guy is a solid pick, but because O'Corn is there, it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Is there anyone else in this Houston side of things here? I know Greenberry and Spencer are the 2 obvious ones. Running backs, we're not really going to mess with those. Farrow and Jackson, are we? I know they had like a career day a couple weeks ago, but consistently those split backs have never really done much for us, don't you think, Andrew?
Yeah, man. It seems like UCF's been good against the ground this year. While I think the game's got a chance to be competitive, I think if Houston's going to move the ball, it's going to have to be through the air. So, I mean, either they go back to the old Houston ways where they're kind of turn it around, or that the game just turns to a blowout and they have to try and throw anyway. But I don't really see that being a game where you're targeting Houston running backs.
I will say this, though. If you go Caleb Jones as one of your running backs, I mean, seriously, and like say Jay Warren isn't there, I would take Jay Warren, but I don't think Ryan Jackson at 7K is really that bad of an option.
That's true. Good point. They're both cheap, so.
All right, so we haven't
take either of them.
I don't think we've really ever rostered a tight end.
Jonnu Smith, baby.
Jonnu Smith, though, has 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games.
That was my sleeper pick of the whole thing. You guys ruined it. Thanks.
He's got 17. Oh, you're welcome. 17 catches for over 260 yards in those games with the touchdowns. Against Wagner, Pittsburgh, and UAB, he struggled against Louisville a little bit. 7K. I know we don't typically roster, tight ends, but in this situation, he's your sleeper pick, Zach. So what were you going to tell us about him?
I like him. He's their best receiver in this offense. I know that doesn't say a whole lot for this team, but again, in a rivalry game, they target him quite a bit. Like, he only had 1 catch last week, but I can almost guarantee you they threw him the ball 5 or 6 times. And for a tight end, that's quite a bit. So
in 7K, he's clearly, with his numbers, he's clearly one of the best, targets for Jaquez Johnson, right?
You're on Florida, the other team, Mago.
Oh, other side. Is this Zach Mago? Mago Zach at Zago Mago Zach?
It's Alex Mago, I think.
Same thing. He's a freshman. Who cares?
Right. Anyway, I think in this game, I think he could be looking at 5-6 plus catches.
Sounds good to me. I mean, 7K, it's not really much of a risk. Would you rather have the 7K running back from Houston, or would you have Janu?
I think I'd take Smith. Really, I think I'd take the tight end.
Interesting. Well, some late breaking news here from Astukas in chat. Deontay Greenberry said UCF wasn't that good last year, and they were lucky to beat Houston, and that Houston knows they're going to win easy tomorrow.
What an idiot.
But Deontay should be worrying about getting a second catch in a game before he worries about them winning.
Yeah, that's that whole college athlete thing where like they just don't know when to not talk.
Yeah.
You don't talk after you have a one catch. If you're Steve Smith, senior, you can talk whenever you want because you just had like a 2 touchdown game. But like, if you have one catch for like 12 yards or whatever it was that he had, like you don't. That's like the week you don't talk. Like you wait till you have 10 catches, then you talk.
Yeah.
Anybody else in this slate of games that we might have missed on here, or anybody want to dabble maybe a sleeper, Andrew, or anything like that?
I got one if you don't mind.
Go for it, Zach.
He's priced at 10.1. Lucky Whitehead from Florida Atlantic. I think he's definitely a guy to look at. He has 28 catches in 5 games, and every game this season he's caught at least 5 passes. He has 2 touchdowns on the year, so I think that consistency is good to have, especially in a 3-game slate like this.
And his name is Lucky. So
there you go.
Lucky Whitehead is a very cool name.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. Andrew, any last thoughts? We're going to go into this BYU slate here.
Let's move on.
Let's do it. The tribe has spoken. This second slate, the Friday games, we have some nice little games for us. Utah State, BYU, San Diego State, Fresno, Louisville, Syracuse. So we all know Oregon, Arizona is obviously the popular choice for the weekday game. Which of these 3 are you guys looking forward to? You have the ACC game. Was that the Mountain West and another Mountain West game here?
Mountain West Independent, yeah. But
Which
yeah, I
one
like
are you guys looking forward to?
San Diego State, Fresno.
Andrew?
I agree, man. This Louisville Syracuse game could be unwatchable with Bonifin starting. I think the Louisville game last week against Wake was on at a weird time. There was nothing really else on. Like it started at like 4:30 or something, so I was watching it and it was just bad, man. It seemed like that between dumb fumbles, turnovers, and just poor passes, the Louisville offense is not looking very Bobby Petrino-ish right now. And with it confirmed that Bonifin's going to start again, that kind of dampens the mood on that game for me, especially since even though he continues to produce, I refuse to believe in Terrell Hunt, your boy.
We have a lot of interesting quarterback situations here. We have, obviously, Bonifant is the new starter for Louisville. Is there any chance Will Gardner comes back for this one?
No, I read that Bonifin's starting for sure, so I think
right.
they're holding Gardner out.
Good for that one. Chucky Keaton is out for Utah State, so which made-up player are you going to pull out of your bag for play to start for this one, Zach?
Daryl Garrettson.
Daryl Garrettson, he is priced appropriately, $16.7K. We'll get to him when we cover that. And the last game I would say with the new quarterback is San Diego State. What's his name? Kaler?
Yeah.
He is out, correct? Or has been out?
Nick Bodden, freshman, will start.
Not Nick Bodden?
Yeah.
So at 5Gs, that's definitely he has to be at the forefront of everyone's mind, even if you don't want him necessarily on your team at minimum price. You have to at least factor him into the conversation.
Yep.
Dude, Fresno State is so bad against the pass.
I think they're so bad in general.
Yeah, especially in general. Against the pass, they're like, I'm trying to find out the yardage per game. They're 107th, 278 yards per game. They've given up touchdowns like they're going out of style. Come on, would you load here? So I think for 5K, I think what that just allows you to do is to get Taysom Hill. Yeah. And I think that in itself makes him a safe situation at quarterback, especially with all these new guys. I don't really know what to think of like using a guy like Bonifant or the new guy for Utah State, especially in a game they're supposed to get beat up pretty bad by BYU. Fresno State's pass defense has given up just 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games, but it was against Southern Utah and New Mexico threw 8 times last week. So, plenty of opportunities there.
Again, if you're taking Hill or Bowden, that the other one won't be there on the way back for you, though, I would assume. But you can probably get Burrell, or I guess if you want, Terrell Hunt.
No.
I don't think Taysom Hill is like, unless people know about the 5K quarterback, I don't think Taysom Hill is like a guaranteed.
No, he's not.
What first pick in the draft?
I'd roll Burrell from Fresno because San Diego State's given up 268 through the air per game, which is ranked 101st in the country. So that game could easily be another shootout that we talked about in that first slate. Because was that Donnell Pumphrey? Did you see his numbers last week?
It's like 150 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, he scored, I think, in every game. He's got 9 rushing touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I saw hashtags there that it was like 2 pump chump, 3 pump chump, and then finally it was 4 pump chump. I didn't know what was going on, but I figured it was touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Diego State's given up a ton of yardage, not a whole lot of touchdowns. I wish I could see these games. Oregon State threw the ball well against them. North Carolina did as well, but they didn't really crush it in touchdowns. They only together had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Who would rather have Burrell instead of Taysom Hill, you think?
Like you said, though, like Taysom Hill isn't really a guarantee. The way BYU likes to run the ball, like Jamal Williams can easily take over this game, have 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then Hill just kind of, they kind of ride the running backs the rest of the game. I mean, unless that game's like close, which I don't think it will be, I don't think Taysom Hill is really the play. Like the beginning of the year when Williams was out, we leaned on Taysom Hill because that's what they did.
Yeah, I think what I meant more was that I don't think he's a guaranteed first pick, especially because of the fact that I think you're right though. I think the fact that it's a 20-point favorite doesn't help Taysom Hill. Like, sure, that means they're going to be up on him. They should be up on him early, but I don't know if that means that Jamal Williams has been very serviceable, obviously. And they don't have like a star receiver to like break one loose for him. Jordan Leslie's been solid. Mitch Matthews has been all right, but like there's nobody. If they had Deontay Greenberry, I would say Taysom Hill is a safe pick, but because of the fact that his receivers aren't like studs, there's no guy that's going to break it loose and give you like an easy touchdown as a quarterback. But in a head-to-head matchup, there's a lot that can be said for 300 total yards and 3 touchdowns out of Taysom Hill, and then getting that 5K quarterback.
Right. I think you have to take the 5K quarterback though, if you take Taysom Hill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you're definitely you have to. Otherwise, you're banking on Bonifant doing something better than he did against Wake Forest, which I can't see happening.
Yeah, I don't think 30K. That's a lot, man. I don't.
And Andrew, are you on the Taysom Hill 5K train, or you think that maybe you roll against that San Diego State defense and go Burrow? Is Andrew in deep thought over there? Or?
Yes.
I was wondering why he wasn't talking. He's usually pretty loud.
He's got the smirk on, man. I see him down there. He's frozen.
He's mean mugging. For sure. Receivers, you'll have to help me out with this. Josh Harper is obviously Fresno State's receiver. He was much better with Derek Carr. But who is Hunter Sharp? I'm guessing he plays for Utah State, correct?
Yeah, Utah State. He, I believe he's a JUCO transfer in. I actually won a matchup with him in the tournament, picking Hunter Sharp. And he hadn't really done much the whole season, and I just I need somebody at 5K, and I rolled him out there, and he caught the only touchdown. It was against Tennessee. That's who it was. They played Tennessee, and he caught the only touchdown.
All right. I'm looking at his stats. He's been pretty unbelievable. 21 catches, 268 yards, and a touchdown against Wake and Arkansas State. They're going to be passing a bunch against BYU, but you also have the backup quarterback.
Who's good, by the way. Go look at his numbers. I'll just throw out what he did last game against Arkansas State. 27 of 46, 268, 2 touchdowns. So not bad numbers.
Do you
Who are
think
we talking about? Garrison?
Yeah, Garrison or
I
Garrison.
can't believe he's actually good. He looked so bad at the end of last year, but I mean, I guess another year in the program.
Yeah. Sophomore, man.
Do you think that with Chucky Keaton out, you're going to see more passing out of Utah State?
I don't know if they change much. I really don't. Because I don't think Chucky Keaton was 100% healthy when they started the season.
And they weren't. I guess they really weren't running him as much as they did at the very pre-injuries, right?
I mean, did you watch him in the Tennessee game? He looked hurt that whole game. Like he was limping around. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he looked very uncomfortable out there.
Did he injure his same knee?
Yes.
So maybe he was playing through it, hoping that it was not going to be brutal. But all right. So Hunter Sharp. 18.8K, though. Do you think that's a reasonable number against BYU? It should be a ton of passing.
Yeah, I mean, he's reasonably priced for how he's been playing. It's just, I don't know if I could shell out the 18K for him.
You would rather have Pumphrey? Gotta be Pumphrey.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely roll with him before Sharp.
Yeah, and they're about the same price. Other receivers, Josh Harper, we talked about Fresno State against that San Diego State defense. 16K, would you roll out Harper way before Sharp? I mean, what's the situation there, you think?
You asking me or Andrew? Whoever
Zach.
wants it.
You're better with the made-up players, Zach.
He was one of the top receivers coming in. I wasn't really that high on him, and really because they lost Derek Carr, but I watched that game against New Mexico last week, and he made some pretty big plays in that game, big catches in that game. So I think he's steady. I think he hasn't had any breakout performance this year like he did last year, but I think
last week was his best game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, you look at his numbers; he's been pretty consistent though. Like yardage and reception totals have been pretty similar. So I think you kind of know what you're going to get out of him, which is always good. Or at least for me. Sharp, like he's had these last two games, but at the same time, like how much does BYU shut him down, Like BYU is always a lot better at home.
Yeah, at home, that's going to be a tough matchup there. Jordan Leslie or Jamal Williams, two 11K guys for BYU. Which one would you go with, Andrew?
It's got to be Williams, man.
Yeah.
The touches are there probably between 18 and 25, something like that. Whether he finds the end zone, I mean, it's somewhat of a toss-up, but he's always got potential for one of those 25, 150, and 2 type games, whereas I think Leslie's ceiling's significantly lower than that. And, I mean, really his floor is too, in my opinion. So, I mean, it's got to be Williams.
Yeah. I was thinking, when you said his touches, I was thinking 18 to 20, and you said 18 to 25. I think that's dead on. And I think it's not even close, really. I think Jordan Leslie could go for 6 catches, 60 yards, and 1 touchdown, but Williams has 120 yards, 2 touchdown potential. Pretty safe.
This slate overall seems significantly more friendly for running backs than receivers, though. So, if outside of Harper and Sharp, I think we should try and figure out who we like here. I mean, it's tough to really put too much faith in Quick or Rogers with Bonifant at quarterback. I don't know, Zach. Anybody on the made-up scale that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, I was actually looking at something kind of off topic. If you guys noticed, Algeron Brown, he's at 10.7K running back for BYU. He missed he played the first 2 games. Only had 6 carries in each game, and he didn't play the last 2. I'm trying to figure out why he's priced at that price. That's why I'm sitting here so I've kind of missed everything you guys have said. I've just been looking at why.
I had a sick lead into a question for you.
I know, and I'm just like, I gotta ask this. Sorry.
He got confused by the name Algernon.
Yeah.
And then the price reeled him in. Pretty much, we're just curious. The running backs seem, obviously deeper than the receivers. So Sharp and Harper are too expensive. Leslie at 11K is not the worst pick, but the upside there isn't going to be there, and I think there's enough running backs where you can find the 11K guys. Quick and Rogers are probably too risky with Bonifant at quarterback. Which guys are you looking at here at receiver if we're not looking at those?
I think you've got to look at Larry Clark from San Diego State. I think I don't know where he's priced, but I know he's probably not priced very high.
11.
He's 11K.
11? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. He's actually, they're on their game this week. All right. Eric Judge is questionable to play, and Ruffin's out for like 8 weeks. So Clark could very well be the target to get in that game. Other than that, though, I mean, like you said, I did hear you say Louisville receivers, with Bonifant starting, it's hard to really put the faith in them. So
Tell me more about Clark.
Clark. Oh,
Yeah,
Larry
what
Clark?
about Clark? Because he's the third receiver in terms of, I guess you would consider him the third receiver in terms of depth chart until these injuries. His numbers, he only has 8 catches for 117 yards, but he's the third receiver turning into the number one receiver. I guess a really bad defense. Is that what you're looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess I wish his price was a little lower, but I mean, in that game, I don't think it matters who's playing against Fresno. I think they're just not very good. Greg Watson is another guy, by the way, from Fresno, who's a guy worth having. But other than that, I don't know.
So we talked barely about Donald Pumphrey, the 4-pump chomp last week. Touchdowns in every game, you said. 6.2 yards per carry average. With these receivers out, do you think that increases Pumphrey's value? Or do you think that increases just, Larry Clark's value more than anything?
I think it has to increase Pumphrey's value. It has to. I mean, like, especially what he did last week, like that can't be ignored. Like, if that's what's working, you got to roll with it, I feel like. Especially with a new freshman quarterback in there, yeah.
All right, that's what I kind of figured. With the game he had last week, you kind of have to think that they're going to lean on him a little bit more than ever because of the fact that these receivers are injured. Backup quarterback, even though not a bad option there. What other guy? JoJo Natson, you think he's an option? Mitch Matthews is too. He's 8K, but he hasn't really done consistently a whole lot. What do you think, Andrew?
You're asking my opinion on Natson?
Yeah.
He's too made up for me. I would have to defer to Zach. But I think overall, the more I look at this slate, my takeaway is that most of your flexes are going to be running backs. So you might only have to even consider 4 to 6 wide receivers overall, because we haven't even discussed Brandon Radcliffe and the great game he had last week. He's still only 8 Gs. Granted, there's risk there because you don't know how the Louisville carries are going to get distributed, but he might play up to like 16, 17K potential if they ride him like they did last week.
All right, Zach, can you talk about Natson for me?
Yeah. I knew you were like waiting for me to get to that. No, he's definitely like coming into the season. He was their number one guy, and I still think he is because he's that. I don't want to say Brandon Cooks player, but like he's the same build. So he's like 5'8", 150, 160, whatever. Small slot. I like to hand him the ball off. I like to throw him the ball. He gets 10 plus touches a game, whether it's through the air or on the ground. So. And they like to consistently give him the ball. So I think he's definitely worth a look. I don't know.
Here's a fun fact for you guys, and this will lead me perfectly into another strange fact. The leading rusher for Utah State is JoJo Natson with 158 yards. 158 yards, no touchdowns, 9.3 yard per carry average. He's got 20 catches. This leads me into my other strange stat today. John Davis is the tight end for Illinois. Why does he have a carry or more in 4 straight games?
They use him in that Dan Vitale role, dude. Like, they'll just hand it off to him in the red zone. And it doesn't work. It doesn't even work very well.
All right, which I'm trying to figure this out here. Is he a possible, like, we're going way off the deep end on this one. We have time now. John Davis at minimum price against Purdue. What do we think here, guys? Zach, Andrew, give me some love.
In terms of minimum price tight ends, my initial, you're talking about Saturday, like an all-day slate, right?
Yeah, Saturday all day, early, late.
I saw Jeff Hewerman there at minimum price, and he was the one that I was looking at. He had 3 catches in his first game back, and I would expect Ohio State to get more involved.
Yeah, that's the guy I have, but I don't want to have 7 lineups of John Hewerman. I have one like Bucky Hodges, one, I have that Colorado State guy, Stephen Walker. Zach, you gotta give me some love for knowing who Stephen Walker is, please.
Oh, yeah, that's impressive, man.
It's just tough. You don't want to roll with the same guy and get burnt. Hewerman seems like that guy that's going to be like, yup, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches, 100 yards, what's up? And then it could be 1 catch, 6 yards kind of thing. But
yeah, you're right. I kind of get like that too when I'm building lineups. I just automatically lock in that minimum price tag, and then I look at the end of the day, and he's gotten me 1 point across like 7 different lineups. It's been great.
It's definitely tough. All right, here. I think receiver-wise, any minimum or close to it guys here, Zach, that have some value for us.
Oh, put me on the spot here.
Anybody from Syracuse? Anybody from not Louisville, because we kind of discussed the fact that that's kind of risky. So I guess Syracuse is the only guy we haven't talked about, or team we haven't talked about a receiver yet for. Anybody there?
I would say Ashton Broyles, but I think he's hurt, so probably not.
And Squints on our chat says, Jared West, what are your thoughts on him, a Syracuse guy?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just can't roll with anybody in this game against Louisville.
Is it a defensive thing, or is it an offensive offense?
I don't have any faith in Syracuse to score or to really move the ball that well.
Chris, why haven't you hijacked this conversation and taken it towards Terrell Hunt yet?
You know what? I had him that one. I wrote about him that 1 week. He did the second week he did awesome. But I'm not a huge Terrell Hunt guy. The matchup was there for it.
I can be the driver of the bandwagon.
I am not the driver of the bandwagon. I can't. To me, Hunt doesn't seem like a pass-friendly guy. He had like a legit game, and it was because of like 180 yards rushing. Like he had a good game against Notre Dame, I guess, passing for almost 300 yards. But, one of the things I really look at and harp on in all my articles is like completion percentage. And his completion percentage is like 58%, which is pretty bad for college.
Yeah.
Like Logan Thomas had a better completion percentage than that for a lot of his career. So I can't really. I guess Jared West had a good game last week with like 8 catches, but I think consistently, if you're picking anybody from Syracuse, it should be the quarterback. And that's about it. I don't really see a whole lot of value on that team, especially against Louisville, whose defense seems to be pretty solid. It's not like it's a Fresno State type matchup where you kind of like in this week when Virginia Tech plays UNC, you kind of push aside the fact that Virginia Tech is usually a terrible offense. You see UNC as a bad defense, you kind of make up for it. I don't see that here with Syracuse against Louisville this week. Running backs.
I got a 5K guy.
Oh, you found a 5K guy for us. Nice.
Yeah, it's possible 5K guy. Joe Hill from Utah State. He's 5K. He's coming back from injury. They say he is questionable still. Is hoping to return against BYU. So I guess maybe if you wait till Friday to set your lineup like right last minute, you might benefit from that. But 5K, might be worth a shot.
Might be worth a shot. Hey, that's what we're looking for. That's a good one. These guys that are coming back, a lot of receivers coming back this week, I feel like, or in the last week of those Baylor guys especially. I don't know what to think of them, but 5K, nobody really else out there jumping out at you. Not a bad option there. Running backs, Andrew Pumphrey's obviously the guy we're looking at the most, I guess, in that situation, but who else are we looking at here besides him and Jamal Williams?
What's his name? The Fresno guy, Waller, at 10.7K. He's been pretty solid the last few weeks, to say the least. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but he's been pretty much good for 100 yards a game, I think. So if you want to roll the dice on Radcliffe, I doubt we're going to get anything specific from Louisville in terms of their game plan with their backs going in the game, but Radcliffe's 8 8K. Dominique Brown is 6, which would be insane if he hadn't just gotten benched after 3 carries in his last game. But you would think that there is going to be a back in that game who's going to get at least 20 carries for Louisville, just considering the fact that they're breaking in that freshman quarterback. And I mean, they weren't even willing to really let loose on Wake Forest. So, and this game, I would think, would project to be even more difficult of a challenge.
Yeah, I don't know what Louisville's doing with their running backs. You know, they started Radcliffe last week, and I sent out like a quick tweet because didn't even realize it, and I saw it. And I guess Radcliffe's brother, I think, maybe retweeted or favorited it. And I was like, who is this dude? And I saw
the family retweets. I love it.
The family favorites, yeah. And then, you know, like you said, someone's going to get 20 carries or close to it. Radcliffe started last week, so I can't see why he wouldn't get the start after the game he had. You know, it wasn't like he had a bad game. I think it was like 20 carries.
Did he actually start last week? I thought he just got brought in when Brown fumbled.
Yeah, Brown fumbled twice.
So Brown fumbled, and then I read that he's going to start this week.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, I thought he had just came off his first start. So if it's not the case, then
if he's locked in as a starter, then that's great value at 8 and change for him. I think it was.
Let me confirm this here before I go off. But yeah, I could have sworn I read that he started. If that's not the case, then he's going to be starting this week. You know, did you know that Petrino calls him the Energizer Bunny?
Who's that?
No.
Radcliffe?
Oh, I get that.
Let's see if I can get the tweet that I was looking at here earlier. Go on, guys. Go on without me.
Real quick, you said, remember when we were talking about BYU, how they don't have that big play receiver? I think they do, and his name's Devin Blackman. He's at 5K. He was out for the first game with suspension, and I think he could be that home run guy. Again, it's hard to rely on a BYU receiver. I get it, but if you're looking for a 5K guy that has that home run ability, he might be a guy worth taking.
Good call, Zach.
Yep. I think he just pulled that guy out of thin air, but I'm not going to doubt it. Martez Waller has had a pretty great year at 11K. What are your thoughts on him, Zach?
I think he's great. I think Andrew kind of touched on it earlier. I think it's definitely a guy worth having because he's been very, very solid the last couple weeks. So, yeah, in that game, I think anybody that's starting in that game could be a pretty good play.
Yeah. You said he's had some good couple weeks. He had 35 carries for 280 yards and 1 touchdown.
I believe he catches the ball a lot, too, for a running back.
Got a catch in every game. He's got 11 total. He's got 15-plus carries in 4 or 5. Yeah. Like you said, anybody that's going to get the ball consistently is going to be a good option in this game. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm willing to bet that this one is probably the highest total of all 3 games.
It's probably a good, safe.
And at that price, 11K, you can't really go wrong. Even if he wasn't in a super high-scoring game, I think that's a good price for him. And then obviously it helps that it's going to be a higher game. But they've kind of like, what is their running back situation anyways? I feel like they've had a couple relevant guys there. Is it what's the other guy's name? Yeah.
Quezada and Waller?
Quezada, yeah. Quezada's the guy that was – he's interesting to me because he gets double-digit carries as well. He's had 3 straight games of it, but his production's been pretty lame. Is he like a goal line back?
I think they kind of shuffle him in and out, like just – I remember watching him last year. I haven't watched him a whole lot this year, but last year I remember they would kind of just drive for drive, just kind of switch him back and forth. So definitely they both have value. I think Waller's the guy to have, though.
Yeah, because 8 at 7K isn't quite low enough to talk about as a higher pick. Andrew, you talked a little bit about Louisville running backs. Would you kind of maybe take a risk on Dominique Brown at 7K or maybe Quezada at 7K?
I guess it all comes down to what the word is out of Louisville coming into Friday night. But if we're assuming Radcliffe starting, you know what? I would still go Brown. I think that there's a decent enough chance that by the end of the first quarter, Brown's locked back in as a starter and he finds a way to get 20 carries in that game. I think however you want to say it, Quezada. He's pretty much what he is, 10 carries at like 4 yards a carry. But we've seen Brown put up some monster games in the past. So I don't want to say for certain that I feel like Radcliffe's here to stay as the locked-in starter.
All right, I got a Syracuse guy for you.
Yep, hit me.
Adonis Amin Moore, running back. He's just above 5K, but 5.5. He's had some good games in this season. Last week against Notre Dame, of course, everybody on that team was held in check. So I think you got to throw that one out. I wouldn't take anybody from Syracuse, but again, if you're looking for a value play that maybe a home run kind of play, that might be a guy.
Yeah, Syracuse big fans of the hyphenated names because isn't Prince Tyson Gully their starter?
Yeah.
And you have at 10K you couldn't roster him, could you?
I couldn't.
I think you could, man, just because the limited amount of receivers in this slate. When you're down to your last flex or two, I don't know who else you're going to really be looking at unless you're going if you have 10, 11K there left and you don't want to go for someone ultra cheap. I think goalie's not a bad play. First 2 years his name was Tyson Prince Goalie, and I learned it was actually Prince Tyson.
Dude, obviously it's Prince Tyson Gully. I mean, Andrew.
No, it's actually Prince Tyson Gully.
Yeah, well, now you're getting crazy with how you're pronouncing it.
No, I mean, seriously, his first name's Prince Tyson.
I say his name, or I try to typically say it as one giant hyphenation. Prince Tyson Gully.
Why don't we just call it PTG?
His first name is Tyson.
I think we've covered all the running backs. There's a bunch of guys I have no idea who they. Chase Price.
Yeah.
Rashad Hall. A bunch of Lawan Hunt. I don't know who these people are, but they're all up in my space, and I don't think they're very relevant. I think we pretty much covered it all over here. Quarterbacks.
What about Michael Dyer?
Michael Dyer. A comments in there. I don't know, man. I have a hard enough time rostering Dominique Brown. Isn't he in the same situation as Brown? If not worse, maybe. Don't you think he's in a worse situation than Brown?
I don't know. It just depends on how far into the doghouse Brown is. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
He's been very reliable for them, and they didn't have any hesitation in yanking him from that game. Just a thought.
No, I think that's a fair thought. You know, Dyer's not going to kill you. I think what's his price? 5K. Oh my God!
You'd be more for someone to just throw on your bench in a seasonal league than maybe roster this week.
There's another hyphenated player in that Syracuse game. Please tell me he's from Syracuse.
You talking about McGriff Culver?
Dude, how do you even know that?
I'm looking at it.
Jared McGriff Culver?
Yeah.
He's not even on Syracuse. He's a fullback for the Jacksonville Sharks. Or is that a different one?
There's two people with that name.
Dude, he went to Missouri, and now he plays for the Jacksonville Sharks. Jared McGriff Culver. What?
Get out of here.
No, Google him right now.
He plays for Louisville, running back.
All right, so you're telling me that there is a Louisville version?
Yeah.
All right, 1 second here. You got to see this. What am I doing on Google?
Jacksonville Sharks, man.
You see it, right?
The Jacksonville Sharks?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Dude, let me copy and paste this to you.
I see it, but I don't believe it.
No, the first thing that comes up is Louisville's website.
Really? Maybe I Googled it wrong.
What was his first name you put in?
Jared.
It's Jarrell.
Oh, same thing. But is that his brother, you think? It's got to be, right?
Got to be. They have it listed wrong on Fantasy Elite, though. It says Jared on here. But it's
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was confused.
Ah. Understandable. Google didn't fail you.
Google did not fail me. Grant failed me. That's what it was. All All right, guys. I think we're all covered here. I think we got both of them pretty deeply. Let me ask you this though: a ton of games this weekend that are exciting. Andrew, which one are you excited about the most? And don't you dare tell me Georgia Vandy.
and so I'm gonna say is it A&M against Mississippi State?
Yeah.
Is that this week?
Yeah.
That game's gonna be great, don't you think?
It's two Heisman contending quarterbacks.
Yep.
I want to see if Kenny Hill can start faster than he did last week, and you don't really expect A&M to really shut down Prescott, but it's just a question if he's going to put up 50, 60 points that it takes to win that. I think it's going to be a great game.
That'll be a fun one. What do you think, Zach, is your favorite game of the day?
I think I want to see how many points East Carolina is going to score against SMU. I think that's my game to watch this weekend. No, but for real though, I think Oklahoma at TCU is a good one to watch because I think TCU could possibly beat them.
That's a tough one. I think that's entertaining because of the matchups. I've talked about it in one of my articles, like the fact that TCU's run defense is so good, but they haven't played anybody, but they were legit last year, but they kind of got beat up a little bit by Oklahoma last year. It's kind of a crazy situation.
Oklahoma's on the road, man, and Oklahoma always has that one letdown game, and it's gonna happen.
Samaje Perine is coming off an unbelievable game.
Very true.
But he's also a freshman. It's an exciting game. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I'm upset that I'm working on Saturday. So upset that I'm working Saturday.
I'm gonna say this too. I'm intrigued by the Alabama Ole Miss game. Like I know that my heart tells me that Alabama's just going to run through them and make them look silly. But there's something that's saying to me that Ole Miss is going to hang around in this game. And I don't know, man. You talked about it. We talked earlier, like Big Game Bo. It's just not a good thing. Big Game Bo is not a good player.
So you guys are not interested at all in the Miami, Ohio UMass game. Andrew Hendricks against, I believe his name is Eric Franapel, quarterback.
How many games this year do you think Andrew Hendricks has completed more than 50% of his passes?
Do I think he has?
Yeah.
I would say yeah.
How many games?
Oh, how many games has he done? I don't know. 3?
0.
0. Good.
Jeez.
How many passes has he thrown in 5?
Not that many.
Dude, that guy is a stud, man. Andrew Hendricks.
He's a Notre Dame transfer, right?
Correct.
I think they're everywhere.
Crickets. All right.
If you think about it, those guys are everywhere.
No, I think he was a Notre Dame. I want to say he was a Notre Dame transfer, and that's why he's at Miami of Ohio.
I remember the name. Now that we keep saying it, I do, and you bring that up. I do remember the name. Those guys are everywhere, though. Like, Nick Montana went to Tulane, and then
read that now.
Gunnar Kiel.
Yeah.
Obviously at Cincinnati, he's been great.
Yeah. It's pretty soon, though. Like, I'd say in 10 years, like, they're going to lift these transfer regulations, and, like, people are just going to be allowed to transfer wherever they want to go. It's going to be free agency in college football is what it's going to be.
Sounds good.
You're going to start seeing trades.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're all good here. It's a little bit past my bedtime here, but I think I'll be all right. We've covered all the games for Thursday and Friday on those slates at Fantasy Elite. Make sure you guys check them out if you haven't already. Deposit $50. We'll give you guys a T-shirt from Lou Dogs. Simple as that. So make sure you guys let us know if you do so. Otherwise, wish us luck. Wish yourselves luck. Let's have a good weekend, guys. Zach and Andrew, you guys are going to be holding it down for me on Friday, I think.
That's debatable.
Doubtful with you two. Andrew.
I can feel myself
I'm scared to ask you. Yeah, sick. Well, Thursday night after Arizona almost beats Oregon and you keep drinking until it goes 8 overtimes deep, we could be in trouble here, guys. But anyways, we'll see you guys at least next Wednesday maybe if we decide to show up. Otherwise, have a good weekend, guys, and best of luck.